Hello there guys, and welcome to another one of my reviews. Today we are driving the BMW X7 M50d model. Now, the reason I took this car for a trip because I had the X7 last year back when it was brand new. The reason I took this car for a trip for a review is because this autumn this power plant, this engine will be going out of production. I'm talking about the B57S, the world's only diesel quad turbo power plant. The decision was made by BMW earlier this year. I think, if I'm not mistaken, in June. And they said this has to happen because the engine is simply too complicated and too expensive to make anymore. What they didn't mention is that it also has high levels of emissions that may not be compatible with the latest EU legislation that demands even lower CO2 emissions and NOx emissions and so on. So BMW decided to drop this engine, and it's really a shame because this quad turbocharged engine is a jewel. I think it's one of the best engines I've ever driven. It's definitely the best diesel I've ever had the pleasure of dealing with, and I simply adore it. But that's just me. Not everyone loves it. And some are saying that it's just way too iffy, that it's just prone to suffer some failures and so on. You know, I always drive brand new cars, so I can't really talk about the viability of every single one of them. So if people are buying this engine and finding it to break down all the time, that's their problem. I mean, I can believe them, but you know, compared to other mills, it's not that bad. So let's get on with the car. So the BMW X7 was launched last year, 2 years ago, but last year it actually went on sale. And it's BMW's first full-size SUV with 7 proper seats. The X5 used to have a 7-seat option, but to be honest, the rearmost seats didn't really offer a lot of room, so you could only fit small children back there or some luggage. But the X7 solved that problem, and the X7 comes with proper third row seating. You can actually fit human beings back there and adult human beings. Now, last year I had the X-Drive 40i model, and I took a trip with some of my friends. There were 7 of us in total, and the ones sitting in the rearmost seat, they were adults, fully sized adults. They could fit back there for a 6-hour trip. That was impressive, if you ask me. There is an issue with the third row seating, and that is the fact that the difference between the floor and the seat is very small. It's 10 or 15 centimeters. That means you're gonna have your knees rather up, so there's an angle in your back when you're sitting back there, and that can cause some back problems. But I guess it will depend on how long your feet are, how long your legs are, and maybe you can sit more comfortably in the back. Now, the car we're driving today is configured with 6 seats, because that's an option you also have with the X7. You can have it with 7 or 6 seats. Now, in this car, the second row has captain's chairs, as they are known in the industry, which means they are 2 individual seats with armrests and everything you could possibly need, just like the seats up front. They look brilliant, and this is actually the way I would configure the car if I didn't need 7 seats. If I only need 6 seats, or room for 6 people or less, this is how I configure the car. I mean, getting rid of the rear bench and getting just 2 seats in there costs about 800 euros. On a car that's 100,000 euros, that's worth it in my book, because it looks so much better and offers so much more comfort for the people sitting in the back. So yeah, the rear seats are adjustable electronically. Actually, if you pull the rear seat forward, it will automatically slide over to allow you to get in the back in the third row. And it's quite an interesting dance because the front seats are also moving slightly to allow the second row seat to fold forwards to allow you to get in the back. It's really interesting. Just like you get on all BMW X7 models, you have some buttons in the boot that allow you to control the seats inside the car. So basically you press a button and all the seats can fold or all the seats can raise up, depending if you want some more room for your luggage or if you want some more room for people. So that's a really nice trick. And also every BMW X7 comes with air suspension, which means you can raise or lower the suspension depending on your needs. So let's say you want to load something into the car, you don't want to raise the objects too much, you have a button that raises or lowers the suspension depending on your needs in order to allow you to use it easier. Up front, you know, there's plenty of room for everything. I really can't complain. The X7 is the biggest car BMW makes today. And you have room for people of any kind of size. Even NBA players could fit in here. You get this panoramic roof as standard, but you don't get Sky Lounge option as standard, which basically means you have some LEDs in the glass roof that light up at night in the same color you use for your interior lighting. Of course, this being the latest generation, we also have the digital instrument cluster, we have the iDrive system, we've gone all over those. I did a full video on the iDrive 7 system, you can find it on my channel. From the outside, this car sets itself apart from other X7s through a couple of interesting details. As I said, this is the X7 M50d, which means it's an M Performance model. Yes, there's an M Performance X7 in the range. Actually, there's two of them, one with the petrol engine, one with the diesel engine. The one with the diesel engine, the M50d, won't be there for long. So if you're wanting a M50d X7, this is the time to get one before it goes out of production. And I think this is the best engine for this car, but I'm going to talk about that a bit later on. Now, as far as the design goes, as I said, this being an M Performance model, you have some cerium gray accents on the outside that tell you this is a special car. So, on the air intakes up front, you have some cerium gray accents. The huge grille up front is done in cerium gray. The side rear view mirrors also have cerium gray covers. The wheels have the same cerium gray finish. The rear end has some cerium gray trims around the exhaust pipes, and also another trim on the tailgate telling you this is a special model. Of course, you also get the M50d badge on the boot, on the tailgate, but that can be removed. So in case you don't know what you're looking at because there's no badge on the car, you can look for the clues I just told you about. Now, the M Sport model, I think it's not the best looking choice for the X7. And I would have loved if BMW allowed you to get this engine without the M Sport package, because M Performance models come as standard with the M Sport package and a bit more stiffness added to them in order to make them more agile and handle better. The problem with that is that the M Performance package lowers the suspension by 10 millimeters. It doesn't really matter on this car because it's riding so high, you won't even notice the drop, but it makes the suspension a bit stiffer. Once again, on the X7, it doesn't really feel like it's stiffer than any other model in the range. That's because it's supremely comfortable. You have air suspension on the car and it's incredibly comfy. Even though it's riding on 22-inch wheels, you really have no issue in getting comfortable in this car, even as an M performance model. So no huge changes. But the thing that annoys me is that you have to get all these M Sport, M Performance stuff if you want this engine, which is the best engine for the X7. And I'm going to explain why. Now, this is a 3-liter diesel. I know, oh, diesel, but diesels make a lot of sense on huge cars, on big cars like this one. Now, this is a big SUV. It tips the scale well over 2 tons. So you need a lot of torque to get it going and get it going efficiently. I know you're gonna say, oh, why do I need to be efficient? I can afford an X7, I can pay a lot of money on it, so I can afford the gas. Yes, that is true. But as you might be aware, the issue is not paying for gas when you're dealing with cars that, you know, drink a lot. The issue is finding a gas station at times, because if you have a car like this X7 comes in M50i version 2, and that means it has a 4.4 liter twin turbo V8 under the hood with 530 horsepower, which is, you know, more than enough for a car of this size. But that car will be thirsty. Now, if you get under 25 liters per 100 kilometers covered, you can consider yourself lucky. And since the tank is not larger than, I don't know, 80 liters, 85 liters, that's a range of about 300 kilometers or 200 miles. So that's not going to be a lot. So you could find yourself in some sticky situations where you can't find a gas station. So that's the big issue. That's why I prefer diesels on big SUVs. And this is the biggest SUV BMW makes, and it deserves the most powerful diesel engine. This engine has 400 horsepower and 760 Newton meters of torque. To put that in perspective, think about the fact that the M8, the fastest and the most powerful BMW ever made, has 750 Newton meters of torque. So this is a lot of torque, and it's available from down low considerably under 2000 RPM, which is, once again, quite amazing. The pedal response is really good too, because the turbos, now this car has 4 turbos, right? And the turbos are mounted both sequentially and in parallel. So basically you have 2 sets of turbos. One small turbo that revs up really fast to ensure pedal response, and then a bigger one right after it, which spools up after a certain RPM. So you have the small one and the big one on one side, and then on one bank of cylinders, and then another one on a different set of cylinders. So they work in parallel and sequential at the same time. It's quite a brilliant engineering feat, and it works. I mean, the pedal response is good, the car is extremely fuel efficient, and it's really fast. You can really drive this car. That's another thing that surprised me about the X7 when I first drove it. The fact that it's incredibly agile for its size. Now, this is a 2.5 ton SUV. And the one thing you feel the most is how much it leans in corners. And yes, it does lean. Considering how high the center of gravity is, that's only to be expected. And there's a lot of weight to be hauled around. But for its size, the X7 is actually decent to drive, more than decent to drive. You have plenty of grip. The rear end can actually step out because of the rear differential. And you have integral steering on these cars, which also helps make them feel a lot smaller than they really are. And that is brilliant in my book. I absolutely love it. But getting back to the engine of this car, being a 6-cylinder really removes a lot of the diesel character. I know a lot of people don't like diesels because they are rattly and they vibrate a lot, but this is a 6-cylinder. And 6-cylinders are very, very well balanced. They're naturally balanced because they have opposing pistons up and down every time, the equal amount of pistons. So that's just, you know, if you want to get a diesel and you don't want to deal with the rattleness and so on, you need to get a 6-cylinder, and that's it. The engine is very well sound insulated, it's very, very well balanced, and it just doesn't feel like a diesel. But then you get all the benefits. You get the torque, you get the fuel efficiency. Now, around town, I saw an average fuel consumption of 10 liters per 100 kilometers covered, which is actually quite brilliant for a car of this size. Then I went outside the city limits at I went on a road trip, and on an average speed of about 53 miles an hour or 85 kilometers an hour, I saw an average fuel consumption under 6 liters, like 5.8 or something like that. Let's round it up to 6 liters per 100 kilometers covered. That's, once again, amazing. That's the kind of fuel consumption you get with like a 2-liter diesel on an older 3 Series, you know? So it's actually quite amazing how fuel efficient this car. Sure, on the highway, doing like 130 kilometers an hour, which is like the average speed limit in Europe, you do get like 10 liters per 100 kilometers covered as a fuel consumption number. But then again, you have to take into consideration the fact that this is a big car. So, you know, there's a lot of wind resistance and so on. But once again, this is a very efficient model. So I'm gonna be really sorry to see the B57S engine going out of production. I understand why BMW is doing it, but it's still a shame because it's a marvelous piece of engineering. Now, the most powerful diesel that will remain in the range will be the 40D, which gets a mild hybrid treatment. And that's gonna be the one, you know, you're gonna have to get if you want a X7 starting next year. I'm curious to see how that will feel, how that will handle, how much it will sip. It will probably have around 320 horsepower, but I'm sure BMW will probably give it a bit more power in the future, maybe get it up to 330, 340. So this has been my review of the BMW X7. A brilliant car, a comfortable car, a good car for going on long road trips with another 5 or 6 friends. You should get it with the B57S engine while you still can. The M50d is the one to get. I know it's a bit more expensive in the online configurator, but you do get a lot of kit with it, so it's a good deal in my book. That said, don't forget to like, share, and of course subscribe. Follow me on Instagram if you want to. I don't know. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Tell me what would you choose between the X7 and the GLS from Mercedes-Benz. These are basically the 2 rivals in this upper echelon of premium big SUVs. Till next time, don't forget to feed your passions and take care and stay safe out there. Ciao.